Goal was a shambles. To concede, the most damning statistic of all is that Harry Maguire, who came closest to that late equaliser, his XG last night was higher than Rasmus Højlund in his last 15 games combined. How's it come to chucking Harry Maguire, who's a fairly ordinary central defender, up front to try and win a game?
You've got Garnacho, who is trying to move like Ronaldo. Like, I know he likes Ronaldo,
I think
and I know
he
wants
is
to...
Ronaldo. Performance of a team that's 13th in the Premier League, to be completely honest.
Probably take defeat at home to City at the weekend if we were guaranteed to get a semi-final place in the Europa League.
I don't fear them. I think we'll beat them.
Aston Villa do not sign Marcus Rashford permanently for £40 million this summer.
Can't just wake up, wave his wand and turn Rasmus Højlund into a player that's going to score 30 goals a season, because it's clearly not going to happen.
It's these sporting directors and these transfer gurus thinking they can reinvent the wheel. You know, at clubs like Chelsea and Manchester United, we're not interested in sell-on value. It's all about the here and now. Stop being so clever and realise that you need someone who's proven in Europe. Just go and sign Victor Osimhen. Scrap the stadium. Get the team right first.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Devils, Manchester United's show. It's been a return to Premier League football for us, which has been a good thing because we didn't have a game for over 3 weeks. However, we end up on the wrong side of the scoreline, losing 1-0 to Forest last night in a game that, let's be honest, if we had anything about us as an attacking force, was there to be taking something out of the game, and we couldn't do it. We're going to welcome in Angelina, Kelly, and of course talkSPORT's Alex Crook. Guys, let's get straight into this game last night. So much to talk about. Ryan Statman Douglas's favourite player, Alejandro Garnacho, Crook, he come under heavy criticism from fans online and in the media for some of his selfish play. Was that fair?
Yeah, I think it probably was fair. And I saw him described on talkSPORT as having young Ronaldo tendencies, because I think we all got a bit frustrated with him in his first couple of years at the football club as well. I think Garnacho's got a problem come the summer in terms of staying at Manchester United, because I think it's pretty clear that Ruben Amorim doesn't fully trust him. I don't think he sees where he fits into the system. I think if an offer had have come in January, then Manchester United would seriously have thought about it. And there are talks about a potential swap deal with Napoli, obviously involving Victor Osimhen going the other way. So I think it's certainly one to keep an eye on. But I can understand the fans' frustrations. I'm so apathetic about United in the Premier League now. I'd forgot we were playing last night, to be honest. I thought we were playing on Wednesday.
I didn't. I couldn't wait for another game.
I was at Arsenal, and suddenly the penny drops. Oh, United at Forest tonight. And by the time I'd had that thought, we were 1-0 down, you know, and the goal was a shambles. To concede from your own corner, not putting a tackle in, brilliant finish from Elanga, but he should never have been allowed to get that far. The improvement after that was pretty good, and as you say, there were more than enough opportunities to win the game, 20-odd shots on goal, but never really looked like scoring. And I think the most damning statistic of all is that Harry Maguire, who came closest to that late equaliser, his XG last night was higher than Rasmus Højlund in his last 15 games combined. Now, I know there are certain members of other United fan channels who think Højlund is the golden boy and can't possibly be sold. I don't agree with that at all. It's not going to happen for him at Manchester United. I'm pretty clear on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going well for him, and you know, to get a higher XG with Harry Maguire up front shows us about our attacking woes, doesn't it, Ange? Because you know, if you put yourself in the shoes of Premier League defenders of other teams, they do not look at Man United's forward line with any fear whatsoever, do they?
No, and that's almost why I wasn't that surprised by the turnout of that game, because we've been saying it all season. The main issue with Manchester United is they cannot score goals, you know. So it just is the icing on top of the cake when you've got Harry Maguire coming on, and like Rookie said, you know, to have that kind of XG, that kind of stat, it's just embarrassing, isn't it? I mean, he registered more shots on target in his 9-minute cameo than Xerxes and Højlund, because shock, they got 0. So it's just, it screams desperation. It's just, and it's not even to hate on Harry Maguire, because he is, you know, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for some of the stick that he's got, but also some of the things that Ruben Amorim is saying, you know, when he's attacking set pieces, he's maybe the best player in our team. Like, are you serious? Like, when he's saying things like that, you just think this cannot be true. And I just think it is embarrassing. And it's not Maguire's fault, but I think a lot of these players, I understand, players are young, they need time, etc. But it's getting to the point now where you just think, what is going on here? They've scored 37 goals in 30 league games this season, on track to beat the lowest Premier League goal return from, I think, 2015-16. That just says it all, and there's only so much Ruben Amorim can do. You can't force a player to score a goal. So I just think overall it's frustrating. But you look at a team like Nottingham Forest, we never thought that we'd be saying this. Well, maybe some people would, but they're a brilliant side. They're defensively extremely strong. We saw that in the dying moments of the game. This is a team that is set, to be playing in the Champions League next season. So I almost wasn't surprised that we didn't offer anything, because we're just nowhere close to the level of a team that are 20 points ahead of us in the table.
Yeah, and Ruben Amorim touched on it afterwards, saying that to give away that goal so early, you put Forest into the exact position that they enjoy being in. They've done it to pretty much everybody at the City ground. They've conceded 10 goals there all season, which is the least out of everybody's home record. They don't concede goals there. They sit off every team they play against, and they're devastating on the counter attack. And that was what was frustrating for me, because I felt that we'd get a draw out of that game. Like even before, I just felt, I think we're doing a little bit better. We'll stay in the game because Forest let you have the ball. All they've got is the counter, and the game went exactly how I thought. I thought it'd be 1-1, and the 1-1 was there for us right at the end with Harry Maguire as well. It nearly very was that. And I just look at just the lack of us being able to make serious chances. Bruno created a couple, and then we just had moments, and that's where the Garnacho criticism comes in. I mean, you look at Joshua Zirkzee. I saw Martin O'Neill's comments on him before the game. He did say something that didn't make sense to me. Yeah, hard to argue. He said it was crooked. He said one silly thing of like, he needs to get hold of the ball, because I haven't seen him. Well, if you watch Joshua Zirkzee, that's the one thing he does actually do. Yeah. But when he goes, well, he's not a 9, so he doesn't have to worry about scoring goals. He's not a 10, so he doesn't really have to worry about creating. That's lovely then, isn't it? And I thought about that, and I went, it's got a point there. Because Xerxes got some nice touches, and he's settled down, and we like him now. But let's just be real, guys. Let's just be real. That doesn't strike fear into our opposition. He's not going to get us goals. He's not going to get us assists. Rasmus Højlund's there. He's not going to do it. You've got Garnacho, who is trying to move like Ronaldo. Like, I know he likes Ronaldo,
I
know he wants to.
He is Ronaldo, honestly.
He's moving crazy. Like, there's not. And look, I'm not saying he's a selfish person. Like, as a person, as an individual, but as a player right now, he's playing in a selfish manner. Like, the decisions he's making with the ball, the amount of times he kept cutting in and shooting yesterday, I couldn't believe my eyes. He's just literally ignoring Patrick Dorgu on the overlap every single time. It's like playing with one of your mates down Power League. He's got the boots, the nice boots, the flashy boots, the socks are all up over the ankles. He thinks he's the best. You go, mate, just pass. Just pass the ball. We've all played with someone like that. So that's why he's getting that sort of scrutiny, Crookie. I mean, with Garnacho, is this why this decision exists, that he's sellable? Is this why?
Well, it could be a product of it. The fact that he seems to be playing for himself and not the team at this moment in time. It could be A, because he's trying to prove a point to Ruben Amorim, or B, because he's trying to get himself a nice move in the summer. Either way, it's obviously not helpful in terms of United getting results. The point you made about Xerxes, the point Martin O'Neill made about Xerxes, I think is valid. You're right, his hold-up play is certainly the best aspect of his game. Troy hit the nail on the head for me, Troy Deeney, on kickoff on talkSPORT on Tuesday night. He said it doesn't seem to matter who starts up front for United, be it Rasmus Højlund or be it Joshua Zirkzee. Whoever comes off the bench has more impact than the starter. I think that's a big issue for Ruben Amorim. I'll go back to it. I've advocated for Garnacho maybe to give him a chance as a false number 9. Probably won't happen now.
Yeah, you wanted that for ages.
I have. The other alarming aspect you've already touched upon is the early goal conceded. How often that happens. How often United give themselves an uphill task to climb. And you're right, against a team like Forest, that plays into their hands then, because they can afford to sit back. They've got the pace on the counter-attack. United dominated possession, dominated the chances. That's what Forest want. And I do wonder maybe whether Ruben Amorim could have been a little bit cuter, even at 1-0 down, and let Forest have the ball, because they don't want the ball. So tactically, I think there are question marks to be asked. But the Premier League, for me, is still about experimenting, trying to stumble upon his best team for the rest of the season. It's all about that Europa League, isn't it? And that quarter-final we've got coming up against Lyon.
Yeah, in the game last night, and Dorgu as well. Had a lot of discussion based around his performance. How did you think he did?
It's a tough one with him because from what I've seen so far, there are certain things I like. I mean, there's a reason why we've bought him, because I think he can play in the position that we're severely lacking. He can clearly play in that position really well. I think it's just a case of, maybe teething issues. I mean, his positioning for the goal wasn't great. It was a little bit embarrassing, the tracking back with it, etc. It wasn't a good look for him, but I think overall what I'm seeing is positive. I'd rather have him than, no disrespect to Dallo, but I know people go back and forth on him, but he's not been great this season. I think he does struggle in that wing back position. So we've got someone in who can play in that position. I think it's a case of teething issues. Obviously, he was out for a couple of league games, domestic games because of that red card. So I'm not too. I don't look at him as like the main culprit of Manchester United's demise, obviously, but I do think with the goal, he 100% needs to do better. Mazraoui kind of was in between, Gibbs, White, Elanga, but I mean as well, I've got to say, props to Elanga. I know there's a lot of talk. I mean, there's talk about Anthony, there's talk about Rashford, there's talk about Elanga now. I think you can't really poke holes in it. I don't think that you can point at, United shouldn't have let him go and all that type of stuff.
Do you think that's overdone, that revisionism, that, why did they let him go? Look how good he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, none of us are Mystic Meg. We can't turn back time. We can't not do it. So what's the point in going over it? Yeah, you know what? I'm sure many clubs think of people and think, oh, maybe should we have let them go? At the time, I think it was the right decision. I think it was the right decision for the player. I get that, like I said, I've praised Nottingham Forest. Absolutely amazing. But playing for Nottingham Forest, like playing for Aston Villa, like playing for Real Betis, is very, very different to Manchester United. I mean, he didn't score Elanga, I think, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but he didn't score until like December or something like that. If that would have been with Man United, it would have been like, oh my God, he's not scored for months, that is a completely different type of pressure. I always liked Elanga, but, he was in a difficult time. It was, the Ralph Rangnick, Eric Ten Hag situation. It wasn't easy for the kid. And I'm more looking at it like, it's good to see the lad doing well. And people talking about Rashford and Anthony, it's a different kind of perspective that I look at it, but I'm like, I want these players gone. So let them score hat-tricks every week. Like, raise their stock and get them out. So I don't really look at it like, oh, what if, because at the end of the day, it's done and it's not changing.
Also, cheap clicks, isn't it? For headline writers to say that Marcus Rashford is proving Ruben Amorim wrong. He isn't really.
Oh, that's funny, that.
Yeah, that's
it's
wild,
ridiculous.
yeah.
I was getting messages in the first half of that game from people at the game, our colleagues, saying that if Rashford had produced that type of performance in a Manchester United shirt, he'd be getting vilified. Then he scores 2 goals, one of them a penalty. I don't think he's been that good. He's been better. He's run more. But he has to, doesn't he? Because if he goes there and stinks the place out, then his options in the summer are going to be very limited. I'm going to make a bold prediction right here, right now, despite what the newspaper writers are telling us. Aston Villa do not sign Marcus Rashford permanently for £40 million this summer.
Well, he's going to Barcelona anyway, isn't he, apparently? So don't even worry about it, Villa.
But then, does that mean he comes back, Crookie? That he comes back to United and we have got another problem?
Well, the vibe coming out of Carrington is that all the time Amorim is manager, that won't happen. I think their relationship is broken beyond repair. I do think Rashford, I know Ange is partly joking there, but he does have his sights set on maybe one of the European big guns. He doesn't want to take a pay cut, from what I'm told. And I think Unai Emery and Aston Villa are astute enough to realise that actually if he comes in and does a job between now and the end of the season, maybe wins a trophy, maybe gets them into the Champions League, that will be his purpose served. But I think long term, they know it's a massive financial risk that Rashford could revert to his old ways.
I think in our fan base, we do have a lot of revisionism because our team is so bad. And usually what happens is because we have to let players go in the end and they end up doing better. And the ones that we have instead of the players we let go aren't better than them or aren't playing as good as them. We then revert back to, should we have got rid of Anthony? Should we have got rid of Sancho? Should we have got rid of...
McTominay's another.
Scott McTominay. Should we have got rid of Fred? Oh, yeah, Amrabat's doing... Oh, bring in... But, it starts getting silly. And the truth of the matter is, you look at the conditions of which Anthony Elanga's playing in a team that sits back, plays in transition. He's blisteringly quick. and he's playing like Adama Traore with end product. That's what he looks like. I'm looking at him run. I go, bloody, look how fast he is. Because the whole team is set up, big space for him to run into. It works. If he had to play as one of our inside 10s and take way more touches on the ball, back to goal, going from inside to out, it'll be a completely different ask. And Ange's right. I remember that season when he came in. Marcus Rashford was offering fans out in the car park that season. You know, and it's almost like you just get a ray of light, right? A ray of sunlight from the kids. You know, Mason Greenwood had broke through not too long before that. And you're going, well, these kids care. They're running hard. You know, he scored against Leeds as well. I was there at Ellen Road when he scored against Leeds. He got a coin thrown at his head. And he's going like that, but he don't care. He's giving it all of this. We get sucked into that. He's got his song, Rhythm is a Dancer. Anthony Elanga scoring goals from everywhere. We're singing it from the terraces. And you get sucked in to it. And then he went on this long spell without scoring. And then the general consensus was, okay, the kid needs to get out and play some football. He's probably not the required level, and finds his home at Forest. Not every minute means you have to bring back the player. I wanted to ask you this, Crookie, and Ange, get you guys' thoughts on this, and you guys watching as well. Ruben Amorim is adamant that he's still seeing improvements, because actually we were poor in the final third. He said we created chances, but I felt like we had a lack of quality in the final third. We have to improve on that. But he also said we are improving. I don't lie to myself. People can say what they want. Do you agree with that, Crookie? Are we actually getting better though?
Yeah, I think this performance was a lot better and a lot more controlled than the game at home against Forest. And this is the first time Forest have done the double over United since Brian Clough was manager in the early 90s. So it's another unwanted record as far as Amorim and this sorry season are concerned. But I do think performances in general are better. The big issue is the recruitment. You know, whoever signed off that Rasmus Højlund deal for the money that was involved, whoever thought Joshua Zirkzee could come in and play as a number 9 in the Premier League, they're the people who should hang their heads in shame, because that's where the whole thing falls down. I still think Onana is a pretty poor goalkeeper as well, not necessarily blaming him for last night, but it's similar to Chelsea. They've spent £1 billion and they've not got a number 1 goalkeeper or a proper number 9. I think you can say the same about Manchester United. And I think, despite what Onana's people are saying, if the option comes to make that big money move to Saudi in the summer, I think he'd be as open to it as the football club. I think that whole transfer is another example of just how bad United's recruitment has been, and that's why this summer is so important, not just in terms of clearing players out, but getting people in. You know, getting an actual number 9 and not paying over the odds and being held to ransom.
What do you think, Ange? Do you think that we're improving? Ruben Amorim says we are improving the way we play football. We have to improve the way we score goals to win football matches.
I mean, yeah, pretty obvious that, isn't it, from him? Great insight.
But the bit where he says we're improving the way we play, though, that bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it does feel like it's the same thing. I mean, it's 23 shots, 6 on target, just not clinical enough. Yeah, but he's right when it comes to in front of goal. I feel like we didn't perform horrendously, and this is again how sad it's become. I don't think that we were like completely steamrolled over, completely outclassed, 100%. Obviously, they were a better side, but it just still wasn't good enough, and it just wasn't. There was no urgency, and it's just it was the performance of a team that's 13th in the Premier League, to be completely honest. I think, there were moments that you can see what they're trying to do. I think there were some moments of positivity, when Maguire came on, you were looking as the clock was counting down thinking, oh my God, could this be, a Man United moment? Or
Nearly did it.
I know.
Yeah, but how's it come to that? How's it come to chucking Harry Maguire, who's a fairly ordinary central defender, up front to try and win a game?
And look better than our
that bad for Manchester United.
And is the best option. I mean, another thing, you look at somebody like Chido Obi, who is not going to play in the Europa League because he's not in the squad. He was part of the squad, and then he played in the FA Youth Cup defeat for Man United.
Why can't he play 2 games in 2 days?
Yeah, why was he... I don't know, I just thought that's a little bit strange that you kind of brought him in, and then you've just kind of sent him back.
Well, he gave the reason. He said we're trying to... I didn't mind his reasoning. He said that it's good for Chido to play. We want to help him develop. It's a huge game for the under-18s. They can get to another final at Villa Park. Let him play. Maybe what Crookie, you're saying there, could he come back into the squad to play some minutes
could have been
off
on the bench
the next game? Probably. But then they're just doing the pressure thing of not wanting to overload the young kid. We do it a lot sometimes. Don't put too much on him, leave him out. But I agree though. Maybe he could have been on the bench. But I didn't mind him going back into the 18s to maybe try and save it for them. But yeah. We could have maybe seen him after
fair
that.
enough. But I just, like you say, could he not have come on for 10 minutes or something like that? I would have liked to have seen that. But because there was just little punch really to the attacks that we did see. I think they really struggled to contain people like Alanga. So overall, you can try and see what they're trying to do, but it is a little step in the right direction. But it's just really hard with these Premier League games because, like I say, I didn't even feel that much at the full-time whistle because you know that you're not really playing for anything. And the other thing that you think about is, United seem to show up for these big games. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to talk about the derby coming up, but we seem to show up for the big games. These final 9 Premier League games now, obviously including the Forest game, sorry. So moving on from that, there's not that many kind of like big glamorous games. You've got like Wolves, you've got, Brentford, West Ham, etc. So it's a little bit like you struggle to see where we're going to show up and even have a few good games. You wonder when you're next going to see a Premier League win, to be completely honest, and that's scary. And I think the international break came at a bit of a rubbish time for us. Things seem to be kind of fitting into place, and it's hard to kind of get that momentum back as well.
Yeah.
So the football editor called me a couple of days ago. We were talking about FA Cup semi-final weekend, and United are due to play at Bournemouth, an hour from my house on that Sunday. And he said, "Well, which game do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, what's the point in Bournemouth United, really? It's going to have
Even
no
an hour from your house
in the table." So I said, "I think I should probably, with my professional head on, I should be at Wembley for the semi-final." And that's a reflection on where Manchester United's season is now. As I say, it's all about that Europa League. Let's be honest, and this is maybe a controversial thing to say. I think we'd all probably take defeat at home to City at the weekend if we were guaranteed to get a semi-final place in the Europa League. If you had a choice,
that's all that matters. The only worry that I have, which I 100% agree, the only worry I have now is just the preparation going into these games. You don't want to go into these games on the downer. So if we've lost against Forest, if we, and City, look at them. They're not great at all. They can be got. There's no Erling Haaland. You look at De Bruyne, I'm looking at him, I'm going, what has happened to him? Phil Foden, he says on the Wednesday, but, I don't fear them. I think we'll beat them. I really do. We like Ange said, we get up for those games. It's just a sense of pride that will kick in. But if we don't win, that's 2 back-to-back losses going into Lyon away as well. It then starts to create a little bit. And I just think, so you're right. These games aren't about, trying to crack the top half and this, that, and the, no. It's just about getting some repetition going, trying to get a little bit of decorum about ourselves, a little bit of pride, and just be well stocked for Europa League. Because you're right. That's the only thing that matters. People have checked out of the Premier League. One positive I do want to say, guys, is that I thought Lenny Yoro had a really good game last night. Been out the side for 3 weeks with an injury, and I thought maybe he might not last the 90. Ruben likes to change quite a lot when players come back from injury. Lasted the 90, put in a great tackle against Alanga, which again probably would have resulted in another goal similar to the first one. Was composed, and even before his injury, starting to really calm down. And De Ligt as well did a decent job on our knee. So those two, I think, have settled down quite well, which is a little bit of positivity as well to talk about. Right, let's turn our attentions to the City game now, and it's the derby, as you say, it's the derby, it's derby day. And it's one of those weird ones, right? Because City, obviously, of course, listen, they need to get in the top 4, so they've got a lot to play for in the league. They need to make sure they get in there, but they're not functioning well. We know that Haaland's going to be out for pretty much the rest of the season, so he's not going to play. But we, like you touched on there, we tend to raise it for these types of games, regardless of what's happened a couple of games before or a game before.
Yeah, it's, Derby Day is always around this time of year, right near my birthday. and I'm 30 this year, and
Come on.
all I want for my birthday is to watch that derby. The derby's 2 days before my birthday. I just want to watch it and just enjoy it. And I love this fixture and I hate this fixture because in some ways logic just goes out the window and you have no idea what you're going to expect. But like I said, this is a very glamorous game. And this is a game that I think people are going to show up. I mean, Man United's only strategy at the moment seems to be, let's hope that Bruno Fernandes can create a miracle. And he's been creating a couple of miracles for us recently. I know that there were all those reports about Real Madrid and stuff like that. I liked how Amorim's kind of shut it down and said, I've told him he's not going anywhere. I want him at this club. I liked that. It's just... someone like him is going to turn it on for this game. It just comes down to, even with Foden being abysmal, I'm sorry, how he was in that England squad in the first place, I thought it was absolutely laughable. You look at Haaland being out, like you said, De Bruyne is not great. This City team in general are quite depleted. But it comes to, again, scoring the goals. And you don't look at Xerxes, you don't look at Højlund and think that they've got a goal in them. Maybe if Chido Obi comes into this, who knows? Maybe you could see, a moment from him. But it is going to be very much Bruno Fernandes. Like you said, I think some of our defenders getting some good minutes under the belt last night, getting some good performances. That'll be important. Obviously, seeing Mason Mount come back. I mean, not that there was anything. He did have that good attempt, but nothing major to write home about. But good. At
least he's played and didn't get injured.
Yeah, he didn't get injured. Mainu's supposedly nearly back. I don't know if we'll see him, but it's a game that you do get excited about. And I think, in some senses, we've got nothing to lose. So I want to see us absolutely go for it.
Yeah, is that what it's about, Crookie? Like, the players just got to give... There's not many, like, say, big games coming up and stuff, and it's always a big game against City, regardless of what's going on. Just up for the players to just turn up. Dallo spoke about it in an interview with MUTV after the game, saying not much really needs to be said. It's City at home. Go and flip and perform.
Yeah, and you look at the reverse fixture. That was one of the moments of the season, wasn't it? Ahmed Diallo winner, and the second half performance in general. Actually, I think United were good value on that afternoon. So they've got it in them, and I guess it plays into Angie's narratives that if you look at the season, the best performances have come in the big games. Arsenal away in the FA Cup, Liverpool away at Anfield, which for me was still the sort of benchmark that we've been trying to reach ever since under Ruben Amorim. Some of the European performances very good in both legs, actually, I thought, against Real Sociedad. So this is the type of game where these players will turn up, and I agree with you. It would be a real confidence boost to have a bit of winning momentum to go to France next week. I'm not, and this again might come back to haunt me. I'm not that fazed by Lyon. I think we'll get through this round, and then if we end up playing Bilbao in the semis with a carrot of a final on home soil for them, we're going to have to really bring our A game then.
Yeah, I do you know what? I have had a peek in at Lyon, and I have to say, Crookie, I agree with you, right? And we shouldn't. We've got no right with how bad we've been. Excuse me, but I do look. I'm like, Maitland-Niles right back. Matic in there in midfield, Lacazette's up front.
It's a bit of a dad's army, isn't it?
Yeah.
One for the younger viewers there.
Yeah, and I'm going like, come on, man. Between De Ligt and Yoro and Lacazette shouldn't be troubling them. That just shouldn't happen. But this is Man United, man. This is... We do some silly things. We really, really do. But to the derby, I mean, I'm now just thinking about how we best put the team out that can be on the front foot and score. And you're right. It's we just have to look to Bruno Fernandes. Again, it showed last night. If he doesn't drag us out of a hole, which is why I don't understand the scrutiny on him, because he didn't have his best game, but he still created 6 chances and had 2 shots on target himself. And he still gave the ball away quite a bit and didn't have his best game. But if he doesn't do anything, who else is going to pull Man United out of a hole? Joshua Zirkzee? Rasmus Højlund? Garnacho is just being greedy? Dallo from a corner hit the bar? Harry Maguire at the end of the what have we got? So it's all on Bruno, and I think he's going to be so instrumental in that game. One thing I do think will happen, 100%, I agree with both of you guys, we'll be up for it. Yeah. They run around in these types of games, our players, they get up for it. and they'll be on it. Actually, and someone like Garnacho in transition against these lot would probably be. This is probably where he come into his own. It's just the decision making. It's not that he doesn't get into the positions though. It never has been. It's just the decision making. So do you go with Garnacho again, or after how bad he was against Forest, do you think you take him out, Crookie?
Well, he's not averse to making changes, is he? So
No.
I think he's got to be vulnerable. I agree with you about the decision making. Yeah, I think you have to ask the question: who's coaching the forward players at this moment in time? Because if you look back to Marcus Rashford, who we've spoken about already, his sort of golden season in the sun when he got all those goals under Ten Hag, it was under the tutelage of Benny McCarthy, wasn't it? Obviously, he's not there anymore. And I wonder if a designated forward coach could improve even the finishing of and the decision making of Rasmus Højlund, because the decision making at the top end of the pitch as a team is substandard. But I agree with you. Someone who's come through the academy, I think it's the type of game where Garnacho could shine, and we saw with Amad Diallo, how vulnerable City are up against pace. So I think I'd actually probably give him one more chance in this game to prove he can play against Lyon next week. The other question is how up for it City will be. I know it's a derby.
Yeah.
They've had the bragging rights over us for a few years now. But in terms of the Premier League, their season is pretty much dead as well. Obviously, they can, still finish in the top five. I think they probably will still finish in the top five just because they've got more quality and individuals than a lot of teams around them. But I'm not sure they'll be as fired up as they would be if they were going for the title, for example.
Yeah, definitely if they go for title. What sort of drop off do you think it could be from City, Ange, on that point that Crookie just made? Because it is unthinkable for them to not get in the top four or top five, should we say? But Crookie, rightly saying they probably will with the players they got. But if they keep losing games and not doing too well, they could get Newcastle might have something to say about that, Chelsea, etc. It's still tough for them.
Yeah, it is. When you look at that part of the table, I mean, I've not really looked at it as much as usual over the last few seasons, really, because we're nowhere near it. But when you do actually look at it, it is, it is tight. And as a neutral Premier League fan, it's very exciting because you couldn't necessarily call it. You don't know what other twists and turns may come. It's interesting for Manchester City because it just seems like these players are just so over being managed by Pep Guardiola. It seems like whichever route he turns down, whatever he's trying to do to get, and there's no denying, as much as it pains me to say, there's no denying this guy is a brilliant coach, one of the world's greatest, and the fact that it's just nothing has clicked this season. It's not his ability necessarily. I think that there's a massive disconnect with him and the players, and I don't know what's going on over at the Etihad, but it's an interesting one, and I genuinely do think that the way that their season's been going, it wouldn't surprise me if they're maybe not as up for it as us, because like I said before, they're just so depleted. And again, you look at their usual creative players, who's going to actually get something, who's actually going to be able to do something for them. Also with Garnacho for us, I'm just checking with you guys. Was it the last derby when it was him and Rashford that were dropped, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for him, just
Probably
touching on him, if he's starting, this is a nice little chance, for him to maybe, redeem himself, say, I know that you dropped me for whatever reasons, but, I want to play in this derby, I want to really show up and do good for the team, and maybe I'll try and be less selfish, maybe, who knows? That's
a really good point, Ange, especially with it being at home. It's almost like I let the supporters down in the last game for the reasons that I know. I was out the team, got booted out. He responded really well because he came back in the next game and we never saw Rashford again. But that's a really good point. And this is the staple, isn't it? You're an academy player at United. It's against City at home. Give him another chance. But he played that bad last night that I wouldn't be surprised. But I have to be honest, he's the only attacker we have, especially because there's no Amad. He's the only attacker we have who can run. That's and take people on and move people out of position, and that's a big reason why I think Ruben Amorim actually left him on last night. He's very lucky to stay on the pitch last night. I think if we would have had another explosive player off the bench, again, we have a complete lack of options. Somebody who could drive at players, somebody who can dribble and be good in transition. He would have been off, because I saw Joshua Zirkzee was fuming at being taken off. and he was having a better game than Garnacho marginally. But I think that constant threat that Garnacho will just keep picking up the ball and going at people, win a foul, cut in, or go down the outside, get a corner. He makes bad decisions, but he's still constantly in the right position to get change out of people, which makes it more frustrating because if he just picks the right option, he'll be a lot more effective. So I think that's just massively got changed for us in the summer. Like, we just have to get more forwards. We're just not scary enough or potent enough in that area. But in this game, I probably would start him again, because if we don't, let's be honest, the front line would look like, unless he goes with Ugarte and Casemiro again, which I don't know if he does, it would be Bruno, who's not a runner, it'd be Xerxes, who's not a runner, and Højlund up front on an island. Like, I just can't see that, Crookie. What do you think the team will look like?
No, I think you're probably right. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what he does with Bruno. Obviously played him in a more advanced role yesterday, which I think had a few people scratching their heads, bearing in mind how well he's been playing in the position that he prefers. So I'd imagine.
And then Ugarte came off at half time as well, so you obviously thought, don't want to do this.
Yeah, so I think you might find Bruno dropping a little bit deeper. Maybe he goes with Xerxes and Højlund. Højlund is number 9, and maybe Xerxes and Garnacho in behind. But you're right, we're not blessed with options, are we? I would imagine that Obi will be back on the bench, and who knows, maybe he might have an impact in this derby.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Mason Mount thing as well. I know you had a bit of a cameo off the bench, but it's like,
you can't chuck him in.
Pray he doesn't get injured.
Yeah.
No, not from the start. No, absolutely not. Not from the start.
Actually,
Can you give him more than the 10 minutes?
Where was it that he started? And that was at the Etihad as well, wasn't it? Didn't he start the game?
Yeah, he did actually.
Very early on, and was almost in tears as he went off.
Yes, it was that game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's true.
And maybe he's got some ghosts to lay to rest as well. He is the perfect player for Ruben Amorim.
He is,
if he can stay fit. But actually, somebody asked me last night, where does Mason Mount rank in the sort of list of dud United signings? Just because of his injury record and the money that was spent, could have been invested on number 9. You've got to say he's right up there at the moment. And I feel for the boy, because I think he's a good character. He obviously wants to get fit. You could see how emotional he was when he was forced off in that last derby. But it's just not happening for him at the moment. And you wonder if Chelsea knew that his body would let him down, and that's why they weren't particularly keen to give him the contract that he wanted.
Looking ahead to the summer, and how do you see the priorities now versus how you saw them before? When you see, like, you get the reminder of last night of how toothless we are up front. There's still issues with Onana, still issues at wing back, still issues in the midfield. We've got issues all over. How do you have the priorities shifted for you? There's been a lot of talk in the recent days, reports, talking about Delap and Mateta and Ekitike, the striking situation. But how do you see it overall?
I think for me, first and foremost, it has to be a number 9. We need somebody who can score goals. I know that Ineos have got this policy of you've got to be under a certain age or whatever. We just need somebody, even if it's someone that's a little bit older, that can be fit for the next 2 seasons, to just kind of steady the ship when it comes to up front. Somebody you can trust, because I always say this about Rasmus Højlund, and I do feel a little bit bad for him in he's kind of been thrown in at the deep end without any armbands, because there's not really been anybody he can rely on. And I've said it before, had the Ronaldo situation not gone the way that it went, had Mason Greenwood not ended up, having to depart for whatever reasons, maybe it would have been different. Had Anthony Martial actually, put in a bit of effort and not gone MIA for half the season as he usually did, had he have had people around him, maybe it would have been a bit different and he would have been integrated in a nicer way, and he might have had a bit more of a fighting chance. But I say it all the time, you've got to cut the cord sometimes, and I think if there is a way to get rid of him, I think you probably do. If he's to stay at Man United next season, he can't be your first option. He just can't, because it's embarrassing, and I feel for the player, I feel for the club. I'm sick of watching him get bullied week in, week out. The fact that Chido Obi against Fulham was able to play better when it came to the defenders, he wasn't getting anywhere near as bullied as much. It was a bit damning for him. So I think for me, it has to be a goal scorer, because like I say, 37 goals in 30 league games is not good enough. So for me, that has to be the priority. I get that there are other areas of the pitch. I agree. I've tried to go to bat for Andre Onana. I thought that there was maybe, someone in there, but the more this season's going on, the worse he's getting. You look at the defence, I think that we've got some talent in defence. I'm not too mad at a player like De Ligt. I think that he gets a lot of stick. Euro looks quite exciting. Obviously, you know, Lisandro Martinez, when he's fit, etc. Do we have a defence that would be able to guide you to a Premier League trophy? No. Probably not. But a defence that could get us back to the top half of the table and at least competing for European spaces, etc. I think that we do have a defence that are capable of that. Obviously, we do need another wing back, but for me, like I've said, it's got to be a striker.
Do you know the issue, Flex, with modern football, right? I'm going to get on my soapbox here.
This is like proper grandad, this.
It's these it's these sporting directors and these transfer gurus thinking they can reinvent the wheel. You know, Chelsea are suffering from this, and a lot of their fans are deluded if they think they're anywhere near getting back to where they were under Roman Abramovich, because it's all very well and good saying we want to sign players under a certain age with future sell-on value. At clubs like Chelsea and Manchester United, we're not interested in sell-on value. It's all about the here and now, okay? And the centre-forward position, and again, Chelsea are feeling this as well, that isn't a position where you can invest in a kid and hope that he's going to come in, score bags of goals, and then all of a sudden you'll have £100 million player on your hands. You need experience. Let's look at the history of Manchester United, even the recent history. Sir Alex Ferguson was so gutted after he lost that title to that Aguero goal on the final day of the season. He went in and got Robin van Persie. There's no sell-on potential there, but what he knew was there were goals that were guaranteed that would win United the league. That's what happened. First season in the Premier League, United are floundering. He signs Eric Cantona, not because he wants to sell him for a profit down the line, but because he wants to win a first title in 26 years. So stop being so clever, Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada, and realise that you need someone who's proven in Europe, who's going to come in and score goals, who's going to be affordable. Just go and sign Victor Osimhen. Just go and get the deal done.
Simple as that.
I agree.
But isn't the reason why that it's like that, Crookie, looking for the youngsters, is that because the rest of the team's so bad and the money we can't compete for those types of players because
I don't care. I think that's a bit of an excuse.
No.
If you listen to Kieran Maguire, he thinks United's PSR issues are a myth. You know, the megastore is still a licence to print money. The stadium is still full every game, you know, in whatever competition, even when we're clearly playing for nothing in the Premier League, pretty much full anyway. I know there's been a few empty seats of late because they've put the ticket prices up. We still got lucrative tours. United can afford players. You know, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is hiding behind that. You know, they just announced plans for a new £2 billion stadium. Scrap the stadium. Get the team right first. How many United fans realistically are knocking down your door and coming on your channel and saying, oh, what we really need is a new stadium? We need a team that's fit for purpose first.
Yeah. Agreed. The team is shocking, and they are pushing this to us, Ange, like what Crookie's picking up on, that this rebuild has to be around young players below the sort of £50 million mark, so we can't compete for that because we just don't have the money for the more expensive players. Or sometimes even the ambition. We might not even win the Europa League, and we've got no Europe next year. None.
This is it. It's all very nice, the idea of signing young players, helping develop them, bring them through, etc., etc. I'm all for that to a degree. But like Crookie said, and you know, you look at Ruben Amorim, he's saying all the time, I haven't got time. You know, when he was asked about Elanga, you know, like sometimes you've just not got time to develop people. This guy needs some talent and fast. Even if it's, like I say, for the next 2 seasons, 3 seasons, people that are competent, that know how to play in this system, that he can get the best out of, have them firing on all cylinders. And I think it's just a case of trying to steady the ship. I'm all for, you know, talent being developed, but do we really have does our coach have the time and the energy to get a whole new load of youngsters in, to have to work with them? He needs some bones at least, and he hasn't really got that apart from maybe Bruno Fernandes, Amad Diallo, maybe, you know, the new signings, Heaven and Dorgu. Apart from those players, you know, Kobbie Mainoo, you know, he hasn't really got the bones to even try and build a team. So you need to give him something, because you cannot expect. I get that people, you know, other fans, they're criticising Ruben Amorim. They're saying, you know, look what he did at Sporting, etc. He's miles off it. He can't live up to the Premier League hype, all that stuff. But it's like, the guy's not a wizard. Like, he cannot just magic this team into being amazing. And I think with what he's, and that's why one thing I will agree with Sir Jim Ratcliffe on, believe it or not, is that he does say, you know, overall when you look at it, I think he's doing an okay job, and I do agree with that. But he can't just wake up, wave his wand and turn Rasmus Højlund into a player that's going to score 30 goals a season, because it's clearly not going to happen.
It's not.
The shirt weight's heavy as well on young players. And you know, we talked about Garnacho. I think we said it with Kobbie Mainoo, who by and large has had a pretty poor season. When you look at how he was last year and in the Euros for England, I still think there's a huge talent in there. But you need experience around you. You need players who are going to embrace the pressure of being a Manchester United player. Look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he was there. He had the ability, literally won a cup final on his own, Zlatan, because he played for the biggest clubs in the world. He had confidence in his own ability. You're not going to get that with Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee. It's not going to happen.
No, it's not. Rennie Runnestein was on talkSPORT earlier, just alluding to the fact that he doesn't maybe think Amorim's doing a good job and is not really having him, Crookie. But do you disagree with that? I know you just touched on there that you do agree with sort of Jim Ratcliffe that he's actually doing a decent job given the circumstances, and just needs to get to this summer so we can really start giving him what he wants and what he needs.
Yeah, I think that's the time to judge him. You know, he clearly didn't want to come in mid-season. He asked if he could see out the project at Sporting, but United wanted him now. He's inherited a team that isn't really moulded into his own image. I think he's been told by the hierarchy, you know, annoy whoever you want because we're trying to get rid of the bulk of these players. And he's certainly, you know, not minced his words in that respect. But it's all about the summer, you know, getting rid of players, getting rid of the deadwood, getting players in. But if they don't sign a proper number 9, you know, as Ange just said, he's not a miracle worker. So they've really got to deliver for him, this board. And I'm not sure I've got huge confidence they're going to be able to do that. You know, Jason Wilcox was in charge of recruitment at Southampton. They're highly likely to set a new record this weekend for the quickest team ever relegated from the Premier League.
Yeah. But has there been a shift that's been positive in terms of the academy? And that is what Jason Wilcox is on. When we look at the likes of Chido, when we look at Aiden Heaven, when we look at Sekou Kone, there has been a shift in trying to get, you know, best in class from academies or change that. Getting Aiden Heaven for 1.5 million quid or whatever it was. You know, I know he's injured at the minute, but that could be like a real coup. We you know, when we haven't got that much money to spend, we've got someone out of Arsenal's academy. That's been a positive, surely.
100%. But you've got to get that blend of youth and experience. That's where the Chelsea model has fallen down as well. So, yes, there have been positives. I'm not going to completely slate them. Heaven looks a really talented boy, and the same with Obi. But you need senior players around him, because otherwise, when the chips are down, those young players are just going to get swallowed up.
Guys, thank you for watching the latest episode of Inside Devils. We look forward to the derby. Big thank you to Angelina and Crookie as usual. And it's very fitting, it's very telling that Garnacho drops a generational stinker and we see nothing from Ryan. Nothing. Not even a peep in the group. Nothing. He has not said a word. So hopefully we'll be hearing from him on the next show, because he's had an absolute stormer against Manchester City. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Inside Devils. Take care. Bye-bye.
My ticket on this show was booked when I put him on his arse over there.
No more of a bonding moment than going to smash a few Americans about, is it?